My name is Steve Sommer, and I'm in my final year, uh, receiving my Master's of Science in Information and Communication Technologies, housed under UK's College of Communication and Information. Um, I also am currently a full time staff member at the University of Kentucky and relocated to Kentucky from Virginia about 4 years ago. Right out of school, I worked in public relations for various Division One collegiate athletics programs, and then decided that I kind of wanted to pivot roles. So started pursuing my degree, wanting to move to a more technical role, working with technology systems, either in system administration or data and analysis. Um, my first year of graduate school went about as smoothly as I could have asked for. Was working in a familiar field after beginning a job in public relations with the University of Kentucky, and taking classes at night. And when I got to the second year, I found myself definitely taking on a lot more challenges, some planned and some unplanned. Um, Towards the beginning of my second year of school, I proposed to my then girlfriend, now wife. So we took on the challenge of planning a pretty large wedding together, which anyone who's been through the process knows is probably a little more stressful than you might think on the first outset. But then I also had an opportunity come up where I was offered a position in a more technical role, working with the University of Kentucky's Salesforce team, where I now serve as our director for marketing cloud services. At that time, I was an assistant director, got moved into a new role, and while very exciting and checking a lot of boxes for me professionally, definitely provided some new challenges working with technology and working with in a space that I wasn't necessarily used to in the past. So, anybody who's had a new job definitely knows that there's a learning curve there, and even more so when you're working in a new space. And when I found myself there with a lot more on my plate than I'm used to having, I definitely had to sink into the thought process of time management. Normally, it was pretty easy for me to handle work at work and school afterwards. But between learning a new job, trying to plan a wedding, and then taking my grad classes at night, definitely led to some stress and anxiety there. And it wasn't until I really sat down and viewed time management through the lens of navigating life that I really started to hit my stride again. There are plenty of things you can do to maximize your time, right? We can talk about scheduling out blocks of time and allocating those to certain things, prioritizing, using to-do lists, using best practices for studying. But ultimately, what I've found in my journey is that finding success has really come through, finding the best way to balance not only responsibilities, but making time for myself. I definitely reached some issues or reached some times where either anxiety or pressure really started to negatively affect my performance. And it wasn't until I started kind of looking at this holistically that I really began to hit my stride. Everyone's journey in graduate school is going to look different, right? You might be a full-time undergraduate student who just graduated and is moving on to grad school as the next move in their career. Maybe you've taken some time off and are just now getting back into school. Maybe you're a parent who's handling parenting and learning at the same time, or maybe you're in a similar boat to me where you're working a full 45 hours a week and doing grad school on top of it. Regardless, my best recommendation would be, before you get started with your semester, try and make a game plan on how you're going to approach the semester. I personally like to block off time so that I can ensure that at least one day a week I'm not having to worry about any graduate studies. But on top of that, understand that the game plan's probably going to have to shift and change with the times. I don't think any of us expected this semester to probably look the way it's going to with coronavirus afoot. But be ready to make changes, but coming in with a plan is definitely going to be helpful. Additionally, don't be afraid to use the resources provided by UK, whether that's academically, things like the library, or those resources available, your professors, or other health and wellness opportunities, whether that's the gym or mental health services, things like that. The UK's got plenty of different resources, and they're all just a click away for the most part.